Calling the Antioch Police Oversight Commission to order April 21st, 2025 at 6:31 p.m. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Kennedy? Present. I said Kennedy. Commissioner Kennedy?
Here.
Commissioner Lacioja?
Present.
Commissioner Haddon? Commissioner Eloquachi? Commissioner Williams?
Present.
Sorry, Vice Chair Williams. Chairperson Taylor?
Present.
We have a quorum with Commissioner Eloquachi absent.
Thank you. Can we stand for the pledges of allegiance? So the first item, discussion item, the overview of the Antioch Police Oversight Commission's ordinance. It is recommended that we review and receive and file the presentation. I'm not looking at minutes.
Is there a way we can get the PowerPoint shown up on the screens? Okay. There we go. Hope you don't mind if I present from down here tonight. It's just easier, so then y'all aren't looking all the way to the left, and I'm not craning my neck to see everyone. So this presentation is just kind of an overview of the Antioch Police Commission, so the duties of being a commissioner, what the commission set to achieve, and just to kind of roadmap things for everyone. So first, I'll introduce myself. My name is Kevin Kundinger. I'm an assistant city attorney here with the city of Antioch. I have met some of you before, but some of them I haven't, especially the new commissioners. Welcome. And this is going to be kind of to tell you what the commission does, the responsibilities, and kind of the way that that works. And so to kind of to give you a roadmap on how this presentation is going to go, first I'm just going to give kind of a brief intro into APOC, how it came about, a brief introduction about myself. Then I'm going to go through the powers and duties, just first with the focus areas of the things that the commission was established to definitively look at. Then there are other duties that are also assigned, which are a bit more nebulous. So we'll go through those at the end. And if anyone has any questions, I just ask that you save it to the end. So then it just helps me kind of keep track of everything that's happening. So just for myself, as I said, I'm an assistant city attorney here with the city of Antioch. Just a brief background, I've been an attorney for almost 8 years now, and for almost 6 years I've been practicing municipal law, 4.5 in Sacramento and over a year here in Antioch. As for this commission, well, we all know, I think we kind of all know why this commission was created. There was the issues that the Antioch Police Department had that came to light through the texting scandal. And after that, the city council at the time decided that severe reforms were needed. And one of the key ways of going about that was to establish this police oversight commission made up of citizens in the community who are there to kind of keep an eye on the police department and make sure that there's somebody watching, I guess to say, watching the watchmen and making sure that things can kind of stay on track, because it was something that was terrible for the citizens, it was terrible for the city, and that's something that the city has a real commitment to not going back to that. And this is the hope that we're doing that. Also, you know, what we've worked with the U.S. Department of Justice and doing these things to try and advance policing here in the city of Antioch. So there are a series of powers and duties that you have. The first one, I think probably the most important one, is that the commission has the power to propose changes to the practices and procedures of the police department. And the real focus with this one are things that kind of came out of the whole text message scandal, which are the policies and procedures that govern First Amendment assemblies, use of force, use of canines, which is also considered a type of use of force, use of de-escalation techniques on civilians, which is ancillary or connected with the use of force, hate crimes, and bias-based policing. So what the commission will do, they'll propose the changes and recommend them to the city council. And it's all based on those subjects that I already told you. And that can be seen, you know, this is all in the Antioch Municipal Code. Most of it is under Chapter 4. Oh, sorry, I think it's Title 4, Chapter 4. I can't recall off the top of my head, but this is this will be AMC Section 4-3.110. Now, I said that there were the different type of subject grounds that there's a real focus on the policy changes. The first one we're going to talk about is First Amendment assemblies. So everybody's familiar with the First Amendment, freedom of speech, but there's also the lesser talked about freedom of assembly. And just the language is there. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free speech thereof. That's the freedom of speech that we all know of. Or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peacefully to assemble. So that is kind of, you know, the right to protest is what it's kind of commonly known as. And of course, the Antioch Police Department has policies in place to address those types of protests, because where there is the potential for maybe things to get out of control, for things to become dangerous, there still is that right of the public to peacefully assemble. And even if it's a large group, even if they're loud, even if they're noisy, even if they're saying things that people don't necessarily like, that is a right that is enshrined in our Constitution. And I mean, we all know there's the Bill of Rights, there's a number of amendments. This is the very first one. And that kind of is showing how important everything under the First Amendment is, because without that, I mean, we don't have America as we know it. Now, there are particular policies directly related to the First Amendment assemblies, that right to assemble. Those would be APD policies, all located under 412. And in there, I'm probably going to stick to mostly just saying the key number, which is the number before any decimal point, because that's where everything is located. And then there's also sub points that are in there. For example, there's under 412, you have the policy and scope, which provides the guidance towards APD for addressing public assemblies and gatherings. And then the point 2 to that is more outlining what the role of APD is in those type of situations. So as I said, there's going to be, with the policies, there's a lot of subdivisions. Just for the sake of brevity and for the sake of my own voice, I'm not going to go through each and every one of them, but you'll see there's things like policy, use of force in those situations, arrests, media relations. These are all policies that are in place to make sure that there is a way for people to be able to get out there and make their voice heard, but still have it be safe for everyone, particularly those who are out there making their voice heard. The second thing, and something, of course, that came up a lot, just a lot in general when it comes to policing, is use of force. Now, here we have one of our use of force policies. It falls into a couple different areas because of different situations, but the kind of blanket policy would be the 300 line, which outlines that police officers the guidelines for a reasonable use of force. As we all understand, while we would rather that police do not have to use force when trying to do their job, there are times where it becomes necessary because force is being used against them, force is being used against members of the community, and the police are here to protect the community. So there are definite guidelines for how it can be used, because otherwise, I think I don't even have to explain exactly what happens. It's part of a very big reason why this committee was started, because of issues with use of force that were kind of found. There in the policies, as I said, there's guidelines which kind of outline what reasonable use of force is and potential use of force. Those are all things that will be covered, things that the commission will be looking at very closely. And when we have, with our work with the U.S. Department of Justice, we're going to have a consultant come in, and that's stuff that they're going to help look at too. So then, everybody's getting the best practices, the best guidance possible to make sure that we can make strong policies going forward. And use of force has a bunch of different subjects. It goes from, restraints that are used, so handcuffing and restraints, use of firearms, use of things like tasers or other non-lethal devices. It even goes to pursuits, searches and seizures, major notifications, and as I said, canine use as well. Those are all things that kind of fall under that umbrella of use of force. And that can be seen, 300 and then 300 on downwards. And each one of those sections that I have currently displayed, they also have their own subsections in there. I know some members of the commission have already spent some time digging through the manuals, and it's kind of like digging through a city ordinance. There's lots of referencing back to one another. It can be difficult, but that's why it's very important. I think I want to make sure it's understood. Y'all have a lot on your plate going through all that stuff. And there isn't a real appreciation there because I think it shows that you're really working hard at it. Next, I want to say is one of the references is, as I talked about before, there's the use of de-escalation techniques. That's one of the places where it's found is in section 300.3.1. Which basically says that officers, when feasible, are supposed to use de-escalation techniques. And there's a number of different techniques. They're outlined by the policy manual, but these are all things put in place to give officers tools to avoid having to use force. Because, sometimes there's a situation, it's emergent, things are happening real fast, and with the proper training, one decision can lead to two very different outcomes. It could be somebody being taken into custody, somebody not being taken into custody. Unfortunately, it could lead to force having to be used or not having to be used. There's also de-escalation. As I said, there's different kind of realms of it. So we have the standard de-escalation. Then there's also policy 414.5, which is de-escalation and crisis intervention incidents. And your crisis intervention incidents are things like, somebody's taken a hostage, somebody's barricaded themselves in a house and is acting in a manner that is dangerous to people outside of there, things of that nature. If you watch TV and stuff, it'll be when they have to call in the crisis negotiator, somebody who comes in, hops on the phone, and is trying to talk somebody off the ledge, essentially. And as you see, there's a sample here. It shows what some of the considerations are for that. It's, evaluate safety conditions, try and create a relationship with the person who's going through the crisis, and being calm, being patient as humanly possible, humanly practicable under the circumstances. And once again, more examples, which just to kind of summarize it, these are all things that are more person-centered. Is trying to make a relationship with somebody who's clearly not in their right mind, or there's something clearly happening there, and trying to be able to get the situation under control, so then whatever injuries that arise from that are contained as much as possible. And then examples of some of the policies that you're going to be looking at. So we have the training on the use of force when it comes to conducted electrical weapons. That's just a fancy name for what we all know as to be a taser. General considerations, because use of force can come up in a lot of different ways, and sometimes a situation could be something that seems totally normal, and then all of a sudden the situation just becomes hot at that point. The next thing to look at is the policy surrounding hate crimes. So hate crimes are a little bit of a misnomer, because one of the important things to realize is that hate crimes do not require actual hate. It requires just bias. Somebody may not hate a particular group, but they may just have a strong dislike for them. Of course, there could be discussions as to what is hate, what isn't hate, all of that, but there is no requirement to show that this person definitively hated a certain group. Another part is that it has to do with when somebody commits a crime using a bias based off of what we call them legally are protected groups or protected classifications. And those are disability, gender, nationality, race or ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or association with one of those groups. You know, that is, generally speaking, when we talk about a hate crime, it's when somebody does something using one of those things. And we have the policies with outlines kind of how the police department should go about that, assess it, and you know, when they're writing the reports, they're making recommendations to the DA's office as to what filing should be made. That's kind of all addressed there. Once again, kind of going back there, so as I said, we have policy 6.3 and the subsections. The policy is designed to assist in identifying and handling crimes and motivated by hate or other bias towards individuals or groups with legally defined protected characteristics. Because there is a recognition under the law that that a crime committed because somebody has a particular bias is not necessarily the same as a crime committed by somebody who does not have a particular bias. A crime committed by somebody who's targeting a certain group and somebody who's just kind of committing it indiscriminately. So the policies here, 6.3, so you have the policy, purpose and scope, planning and prevention. As I said, these are all things that are there that you're going to be looking at to ensure that those are all things that address the concerns of the community and things that the community, so then the community has trust in the police department. Because if I can just step back 1 second, another reason why this was made is because this entire commission was to help regain the trust and build the trust and engender the trust that the community, in order to have effective policing, the community has to have in the department. But of course, the department has to also earn that trust, earn that, kind of earn that goodwill. And these are the ways that we're working on building that to make sure that, you know, it's going to be an ongoing process, but we're trying to be moving in the right direction. Then we have bias-based policing, which is, you know, seems somewhat self-explanatory, but I'm going to go through it anyways, where it's when a policing activity is used differently or the police treat somebody different based off of those protected characteristics that I went over before: race, ethnicity, national origin, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, and then it actually contains some other kind of protected characteristics in there, such as economic status, age, cultural grouping, disability, or affiliation with a non-criminal group. And as I said, with the policies, we want to ensure that the policies achieve their goal, which is here under 401.1. to ensure that policing is fair, that it's objective, that it's kind of, that it is used, everybody has the same expectations, everybody knows what's going, kind of, it's going to be used in the same way uniformly, regardless of how somebody looks or how somebody may be perceived for certain characteristics that they choose to express. These are all in the 401 series, which, you know, also outlines that bias-based police profiling is prohibited. It has the trainings that are required, and of course, part of this is that the police department in the city, we do have the requirement to report certain things to the California Department of Justice, certain information that through any number of different laws we have to collect and keep to them, and we submit it periodically, as far as I understand. Now, from this, I'm going to transfer into kind of the other duties, because as I said, those first ones, those are the main focus areas. Those were the areas that the city council identified as being kind of, I think, the most important things to address these issues. Now it's some of the other things that are the powers of the committee. So part of it is to review and comment on any other policies. Because, we only went through, like, what we went through was a fraction of the policies that we have. We got policies for everything. And some of those policies are things that, people understand as being like, oh yeah, of course there's a policy when it comes to what you have to do with your firearm when you're off duty. To ways to conduct yourself when you're out in public. Use of your personal communications devices, which is something that was a real hot topic when it came to the whole text message scandal. Things of that nature. And those are all other things that are also important. So while the focus is on those things, you also have the ability to go through and look at the other policies as well to see if there is something that you feel would, if it were to be addressed, could be helpful, and your duties as the commission are helpful for the police department because you're an advisory body to them too. Another duty you have is to review the proposed budgets and ensure that, you have to have a public hearing to discuss it and to kind of go through it and make sure that in your approximation, it's something that the budget, so whatever money is going to be coming to the department, is going to be used towards those things that go to promote the policies and procedures that exist there. It's not just money that's being brought in for whatever purposes. It has a goal, and it's one of those things, if it makes sense to you, great. If not, that's something you can collect that and say, this doesn't make sense, and forward it to the city council along with the recommended changes. And then the city council, as I think, especially the commissioners are aware, they would go through the normal process there. So there'd be a meeting, there'd be public comment. They would have the chance to listen to what the public has to say. They may discuss amongst themselves, and then they would come to a decision as to what they want to do. There is a requirement, and of course you can request that the police submit an annual report to the police commission. And that, what the ordinance says is, regarding such matters as the police commission shall require. It's kind of a squishy term, but essentially I think the best way to look at that would be whatever you need to be able to do your work. So that would be part for the commission to kind of come up and say, this is, we want our reports to have this information, because this information is what we need to be able to make our decisions, to make our recommendations to the city council, and have them be meaningful and useful. Then, as I know the chair and the vice chair are intimately aware of, that you have the requirement to produce a report yourselves. And that's something that goes to the city council, so then they understand what's going on. They're getting your advice, and that's a very key part, because the commission was there, so then you all as an impartial group can come together and say, this is what we have identified as being issues. These are things that we'd like to see change, and this is why we'd like to see it change. That's what the reporting is for. You also have the right to receive reports from the police department regarding the status of civilian complaints. Another thing to work on is developing a program for the mediation of the civilian complaints, which, mediation just means kind of like the negotiation, the way to settle those complaints. And that's something that, you would work with in conjunction with the police chief, the city manager, city attorney's office, so we can help get that there and get it to a place it needs to be. So then we can start instituting those programs. Another thing is to study, develop, and recommend community policing and alternative crime prevention policies and strategies. And those would be things that would also be recommended to police chief, city manager, city attorney. And those are things that, can also address things like the role of social services in this realm, because as we're all aware, mental health does play a huge role in a lot of the situations. It plays a huge role in calls for services. It plays a huge role in crime reporting itself. And there's kind of this section of the ordinance kind of addresses that and contemplates how you can look at things to help kind of keep that in line. A good example of that would be, of course, the Anthony Quinto Crisis Response Team, the AQCRT, is one of those things that goes out there and is able to deal with situations where somebody clearly needs help. But, with police, the police may not be the right tool in the toolkit to address that situation, I'll say. Also, further, there's you have the right kind of, one of the duties is to develop and recommend educational programs that can help educate the public on policing. This could be also things, holding forums, community meetings, things having to do with neighborhood watch programs, things of that nature. And this is something that the public can do, but just as a commission, you also can make requests to review data. So then you can come to your decision, say you have a question, you could say, I would like to see the records relating to use of force over this time. Those are all things that you have the right to request underneath the ordinance. So that, I think, hits the broad points of the duties of the commission. And of course, there are other things that are bound up in that, but I could be talking here all night about it. It's the ordinance is long, the work is long, but I hope that this is something that can put you guys kind of on the right path, the right mindset, so you know kind of where to focus on and where to go. And then, just before I conclude, and I'm going to keep this real brief, I know that there's also been a request for kind of more trainings and stuff, for example, things like the Brown Act, and those are things that the city is currently working on organizing, because we have some things that are kind of readily available that would cover a lot of that stuff. But of course, in the PowerPoint, you have my name there. You guys have my email address. You're able to contact me. You're able to contact the city attorney, or the city attorney's email. And I am but one person. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I think I've been pretty good at keeping up with that so far. But I do, even if I don't respond right away, I do see the emails, and I triage things. I have to be able to triage things myself, but I think I do have the ability to kind of do that. And, with the people who I think have reached out to the city attorney's office and had particular questions, I would hope that you all have been able to get an answer back that was clear and you weren't waiting around for it forever. So at this point, if you have any questions for me while I'm up here, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I will take my little name card seat over there, and we can continue onwards.
Do you guys want to do public comment first, and then we can do our questions? Yeah, let's take public comment. Do we have public comment?
Yes, we have one from Leslie May.
I noticed that you used the word abridging, so I wanted you to further explain what you meant by that word in terms of policies and procedures. Also, I needed to comment on who is policing the APOC. So are they answering to the Department of Justice? Who does APOC answer to? Because it seems as though the ones who they're answering to is the mayor, and that is biased. So the whole presentation would be considered biased if they're answering to the mayor or to the city manager. They need to be answering to somebody higher than just you guys and these two, because that's like political interference. That's my comment.
No other public comments.
Great. Any comments from the commissioners, questions for city attorney?
Hi, Kevin. I just have one question. If we go to the slide that says, 414.5, de-escalation, crisis intervention incidents, you stated that this was like for a hostage situation. And the only question that I have is, well, what I wanted to state is there was an incident last year when APOC first formed where a father came in and he stated that APD and SFPD showed up at his home and terrified his children. That was not a hostage situation, but it was a situation where they was assisting SFPD. So I guess I'm trying to get to my point. My point is, what category would that fall under? Because it's definitely not de-escalation. There was an armored vehicle used in this situation. So I don't know if I'm making myself clear. So, because I don't see anything in here that would that gave an example if a call was received by another law enforcement agency asking for APD's help on how we would handle that situation. And I know when I ask a few questions, you know, I was told that normally it's whatever law enforcement agency is needing the help, they were coordinated with APD.
Well, you know, I'll just start by saying that unfortunately, I have not committed the entire police policy manual to memory, so I don't know exactly
I can
where.
answer.
Oh, okay.
So I think what you're referring to is mutual aid. And our interim
Yes.
Captain Cook is here and probably can speak on any mutual aid agreement. So usually police departments have a mutual aid agreement that is best practices, like International Chiefs of Police would be a standard that has, you know, when is aid called in, why, if it's documented, if there's uses of force that are, happening under someone else, it still has to be reported, follow through with our police department. So you're talking about the mutual aid policies, yeah. And that is under, your purview to review and to comment on as well. And I believe at some point we'll get to that with the Luxapol. And interim Captain Cook he will correct me if I'm wrong.
And, just to follow off what the city manager has said, yes, you do have the right to, that is one of the things that you can look at, of course. It's just the fact that it's not one of those main focus points, I think, so having those, those 7 subjects that I kind of talked about at the beginning, those are to make sure that those are the ones that you have to look at. Everything else you can look at. It's kind of like the option, the difference between you got to go to work or you can go. But those are the requirements. So your duty is to review those policies,
Yes.
those 7 policies, and there's also a lot of linkage between things. It's never so simple as like, oh, this is just one policy and that's separate and discrete from a different policy. Sometimes the policies reference to one another. Sometimes you have to look at the whole thing to see, okay, where do all the pieces come together? And that's one of the difficult things about going through the policies, but it's why it's so important to do that and learn to understand that. And that's one of the duties that you all have.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Kennedy?
One of the questions that I have in looking at both our ordinance, but also kind of tying it over to the Department of Justice agreement, when I went to print that agreement out last night, for the first time I noticed in red letters at the top of every page of the DOJ agreement that we are now in a situation where everything is going to be subject to Executive Order 14168. And so when we talk about protected characteristics, we are in new territory now with that executive order. And at some point, I don't know that we're going to get an answer to that tonight, and in no way, shape, or form do I think that this is something that our police department would have a problem with. But I do think that when we look at this agreement and the administration, the current administration's actions when it comes to protected characteristics and gender and DEI in general, we want to make sure that we are not putting anybody in a situation where they are no longer going to be taken care of, whether they are people we are responding to, whether they are people we are hiring and or working for and with. But at some point, I'm going to ask for some clarification on that.
Sure, and just to let you know, and the chief is here and can respond, we have our own non-discrimination policies and practices, and of course we crosswalk what happens with the federal government, but we also, the chief has his own policies as well.
And there is also a section in the DOJ MOU. I do not recall it off the top of my head, but there is a section in there where, in there it says that nothing in there should be construed to constrain or abridge our rights of what we have to do under state law as well. So that is, I think I understand what your question is, but that is the answer that I'm able to give you at this time regarding that.
And I appreciate that, and I'll probably just follow up with you separately, and thank you for the clarification between the federal, the state, et cetera. Let's face it, it's becoming increasingly complicated.
Yes, and I'm not here to give a legal lesson on the separations between everything, but just really basically federal law is one thing, state law is another thing, and ordinances usually fall underneath the state law, but those are two kind of separate realms. So with our agreement, we feel that it would make sure that our agreement ensures that we comply with state and federal law.
Any other questions? Commissioner Haddon? I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Commissioner Williams, I'm sorry.
So under policy 603, hate crimes, which is most of our scope, right? How do we practice avoiding hate crimes in our city? That's probably a question for the chief. I want to make sure that people do have efficiency when it comes to reporting hate crimes, and city manager, is that okay?
Sure. So most police departments have a hate crimes bureau. In terms of how you report hate crimes, also gets to peripheral issues like internal affairs, as well as bias policing, professionalism, investigations. So the chief will probably be able to give you a full report on how hate crimes are reported, documented, and investigated. And I don't know if that's today, so we can add that to your requested agenda items for future meetings. But that is a good question.
And I also just wanted to state that, as part of the agreement that was made with the U.S. Department of Justice, as you can see, kind of playing in there, there is a very big role for APOC in there, and they're going to be involved. And so the commission is going to be meeting with the consultants as well, and they'll be able to help you because, part of it is to look at the policies and see what could be fixed, what could be made better. And it is my understanding that there is already some policies in place that talk about preventing them or the reporting. But as I stand here today, I can't tell you exactly how it goes about doing that. But there are the policies there, and then when you, as the commission, get to those policies, and if you think that they're not sufficient for the city or sufficient to perform their aims, those are all things that can be worked with to try and change those or try and strengthen them to make sure that their stated goal is actually being accomplished.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Bessie, City Manager Scott. I did have one more question about, there was a discussion in your presentation about another bias policing. How do we get documentation of like how police calls are made in District 1, District 2 versus District 3 and 4 of Antioch? I've heard that people have waited several minutes or hours for responses to their police calls, and then District 4, they're like, oh, I'll be there in 15 minutes, and I live in District 4, so.
I don't have the answer to that. I would have to defer to Chief Hill
Okay.
or
That's just something
somebody.
that's
Yeah.
come up before, so.
Um,
There's just different response times. Yeah.
So your question is really about how calls are prioritized and dispatched as opposed to whether they are taken in order or put on hold. It's more about how they're prioritized?
Yes.
Okay.
That's been a common theme in certain communities. So I just wanted to raise that question. And I've heard it from people that I've talked to in the community. I don't know if it's still going on, but
Yeah, I think that Kevin's awesome, but he does not run the
He probably
operation.
hasn't. Yeah. No, I know.
No,
I'm just saying is that,
the
yeah.
chief, but it is a really good question, especially, the chief has done an analysis of the Angelo Quinto care response teams, call outs, priority calls, so he can give you that presentation along with mutual aid, all those things. I think that's a whole nother.
It was just something I wanted to raise. Thank you
Yes,
so
no,
much.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate you making work for us. Just kidding.
All right, on to agenda item 4, the consent calendar. 4-1, the minutes of March 17th, 2025, and 4-2, the minutes of April 7th, where we had no quorum. Is there a motion to move these minutes forward?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second?
Can we have a vote, please?
The motion to approve the consent calendar passes 5-0.
Agenda item 5, our police chief, Joe V. Hill's report out.
Good evening, Commission, City Manager, City Attorney, and community. I'm going to kind of cover a lot. I'll go slow, and I'll stop after each section for questions if need be. I think that might be the easiest way to do it. I'll start with the Police Department update. Currently, we sit at 86. Oh, not yet. It can stay up there. That's next. Currently, we sit at 86 sworn staffing. 6 of those 86 are on long-term injury leave. 1 is on long-term military leave, and there are currently no officers on administrative leave. We have 13 officers in the field training program currently. We have 3 recruits graduating from the academy at the end of the month and have extended job offers to an additional lateral applicant. At the beginning of May, we will have 17 officers in our field training program. We have 8 recruits in 3 different police academies currently. As we move closer to the summer, we will be monitoring our staff and trainees closely in order to expand the capacity of our Operations and Support Services Bureau. Any questions? All right. I think I can get the PowerPoint to work. Okay. So the remote doesn't work at all? Maybe. Oh, there it is. Oh, it's making noises. Sorry, I'm not very tech savvy. All right. The following presentation is the 2024 Internal Affairs Summary. Moving forward, we will present the previous quarter statistics in the Chief's report out. In the first quarter report for the year, we will present the previous year's summary. Perfect. 2024 saw 32 total complaints, 19 citizen complaints from outside the organization, and 13 internally generated complaints. Currently, there are 21 open cases from 2024 that are still actively being investigated by outside investigators. And there's a number breakdown in case you didn't get the PowerPoint. There are currently 8 open IA investigations from 2020 through 2024. 2 cases where law enforcement officer involved fatal incidents that were both told. One of the cases was investigated by the California DOJ. Of the 21 open 2024 cases, 6 are internally generated. So I'll touch on the 2024 cases for just a minute. Depending on what month the complaint comes in and whether or not there's a POBAR issue or not, or a tolling issue or not, the department has 365 days to get the complaint closed out. So it's not uncommon to be in 2025 and have cases lingering from 2024, because if the complaint came in September, October, November, we still have till September, October, November of this year to get it handled. A majority of the cases all go outside. We have a handful, 1 or 2 cases where it can be proved whether or not the officer did it by the GPS, their speeding complaints. So that's something we know we don't have to send out. We can pull up their unit history on their car, and we can, yeah, he was speeding. No, he wasn't speeding. I don't think it's very cost effective to send those out if we can prove or disprove the complaints like that. Any questions about any of our IA numbers, investigation numbers? Okay.
Oh, yes, I have
Yeah.
questions. Is this a mixture of, well, going back to the 19 citizen complaints, is it a mixture of traffic, noise complaint?
No, so citizens' complaints are complaints citizens make against officers.
Oh, okay, got
They're
it.
they're
got
not
it. Okay,
complaints tied to a call for service. They're complaints against officers.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So you just made a reference to speeding versus somebody being negative or being mean and nasty, for example. So can you expand a little bit on what the ranges of those complaints are without interfering or without creating any sort of a problem based on the investigation and the issue?
I will do my best. Service-related complaints, and I use the speeding one as an example because we just got a couple of them. So we're working our way through those right now. But a citizen complaint is any complaint generated by a citizen of the city based on an interaction or call for service they had with an officer. It could be anything from rude or discourteous. They did not like the outcome. We see a wide range of complaints, community complaints. Internal complaints are complaints generated internally, usually through a supervisor or another officer, and again, examples only, observe a policy violation. Through reporting, we identify an issue that needs to be either clarified or addressed, and that's how internally generated complaints are done. So all citizen complaints, we just opened the portal. I think I talked about it meeting before last. If I remember correctly, it's on the internet. Anyone can go to the webpage, file a complaint online, and it can get processed that way. Somebody can come into the police department, or somebody can go through the link on the website and file a complaint as well.
Thank you, that's helpful, and congratulations on your permanent appointment.
Thank you very much.
I did want to say congratulations, Chief. So the portal is every time someone files, like, when they call, there's a response that's given back to them through the police department. So someone calls like a 911, and they have a survey that comes back to them via cell phone, email.
No, that's different.
Okay,
We're
that's
talking
what I wanted to make
specifically
sure.
about
Okay.
citizen complaints
Okay.
is through the portal.
Okay,
Now, of course, you asked, Smarsh? We just renewed the contract. I'm sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head. What Mr. Williams is talking about is we had a lapse in service because the contract expired. It just got approved. We're getting everything going. There's an IT component of it, which is delaying it. But that is basically the citizen feedback for the department. I think we reported out on that late last year before the contract lapsed. But that's where a citizen calls the police department for, hey, there's loud music next door. I'm having a fight with my neighbor. That generates updates to the caller, to the person who called, as well as at the end a survey about the service, the length of time they waited. And I want to call it Smarsh, but I feel like I'm wrong.
Say it again.
I want to call it Smarsh, but I feel like it's wrong.
okay.
I feel like that's not the name of it.
Thank you. I just wanted clarity for myself. I appreciate you. Thank you.
And if I may add also, I know that there's a message sent to individuals if they have a Facebook account. APD will send a message to that individual stating that thank you for your call, and we're here to serve you. And I know this for a fact.
Yeah, it depends. It gives the caller an option when they get the first message of how they want to receive the notifications, and I believe online messaging is one of those ways. Again, I'm not the tech person. Oh, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hey, everyone. I would like to call a motion to recess from I'm sorry. My head is killing me today. So, yeah.
Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
Thank you.
Can we vote, please?
5 minutes?
The motion to recess for 5 minutes at 7:24 p.m. passes 5-0.
Calling the Antioch Police Oversight Commission back to order at 7:31 p.m. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Kennedy,
Here.
Commissioner Lacey-Oha,
Present?
Commissioner Hadden,
Present.
Commissioner Eloquachi, Vice Chair Williams, Chairperson Taylor.
Present.
We have a quorum with Commissioner Eloquachi and Vice Chair Williams absent.
Okay, very sorry to interrupt. Was there any other questions in regards to our IA and our complaints presentation that the chief gave us? Okay, we can move forward.
There we go. Got it. And just to clarify, it's Spider Tech, not Smarsh. Smarsh was what we had before Spider Tech. Now I'm going to get into training, and this is more so for you all and the training ad hoc that we had talked about. At our last meeting, we had a brief discussion regarding a training ad hoc, most notably for us to facilitate and send you all out to different training. Amongst the ad hoc, I am asking you to divide yourselves into 3 groups. To prevent Brown Act violations, these groups will be scheduled for training inside the department and outside the department based on the need and scheduling. I know May is coming up soon, but I'm asking all 3 groups to provide us with 1 or 2 days a month where we can bring you into the department and provide you with training in a variety of areas. Some of this training will be provided by officers, support staff, and certified instructors. Other training will be provided by outside instructors in a variety of areas. We would like to have 1 day a month, 4 to 6 hours for the next 3 to 4 months. I also ask that you provide me, through the city manager, of course, a list of training and conferences you have already attended since being a commissioner in your commissioner role. This will also help us set up external training, traveling, and training for those of you who need it or have not attended yet.
Any questions? Sounds good.
And lastly, you may or may not know the City of Antioch is currently a Public Safety Partnership City, PSP for short. PSP is a program established through the Department of Justice to assist cities with community engagement, constitutional policing, crime analysis, agency collaboration, gun violence reduction, investigations, and technology. We have been a PSP city for the last 3 years and have recently entered our last year of the 3-year committed agreement. We have already received operational assessments in crime analysis, technology, non-fatal shootings, strategic planning, and most recently, community engagement. We have already implemented many recommended strategies across all working groups within the police department. Hopefully, our liaison, Chief Womack, can find time to come and present the program and our status, as well as our progress and relationships to you all in the near future. More importantly, we have provided you all with the community engagement assessment. We would like to take advantage of several of the training opportunities in the assessment for our staff and for all of you. I also invite you to review the assessment and work with us on increasing community engagement across the city. Any questions?
It's looking like you're doing a great job. No questions, quiet room. There
Well,
we go.
I have a question. It says September 2024. Was this for the whole entire year of 2024 or 2023 to September 2024?
So it's an assessment of our community engagement historically up until now, and then they make recommendations based on our recent history.
Okay.
So the assessment, we asked for the assessment in the, I'm going to guess, the middle of last year, right after we came from the PSP conference. It took them a while to get the analysts together to look at what we're doing, what we have done, look at all of our platforms, what we're doing internally, and then make an assessment. The assessment was based off of the data they collected. A rough version of the report was done in the early part of winter last year, and we were delivered the final findings, I want to say just after the new year this year. You're welcome.
Commissioner Kennedy?
In looking at the recommendations and the table and the timeline, it feels like some of these recommendations are very parallel to some of the recommendations or some of the goals and objectives in the DOJ agreement. Are these recommendations things that we're planning to implement across the board, and where and how will these pieces fit together?
So we have had discussions, myself and the city manager, about overlaying the two together. So we're not duplicating work, but trying to get the most out of the assessment and the DOJ agreement and use them together moving forward. We have done the same thing with the previous assessments and overlaid it together so we can do everything all at once instead of having to recreate and start from scratch or start all over again.
Thanks.
All right, no more questions.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment?
I do not see any public comments.
Okay. Any other discussion from? All right. We can move on to agenda item 5-2, restructuring of our ad hoc committees. So in our past meetings, we discussed that we would be merging a few of our ad hocs based on the work that's kind of being done currently. What that looked like was us merging basically police practices, which is like internal affairs, complaints, and policies, and then leaving community engagement, leaving budget, but the police practices would basically embody the other ad hocs that we have. And then also, just after discussion with the chief, creating a training ad hoc as well. So today we would kind of just be discussing the agreements and if we're going to motion and actually vote in these new ad hocs.
I realize I'm the new kid on the block, but I think based on the number of people that we have available, the number of things that we were trying to work on and accomplish, I think combining, especially where some of these things will overlap, makes a lot of sense. And I'm happy to participate on that combined ad hoc. So,
Do we have a motion to move forward with?
We have a public comment for this item.
Okay, great.
Leslie May.
I may be mistaken, but I thought that the ad hocs would pass the time for the ad hocs. They were supposed to be turned into standing committees. So I just have a question about that because I believe it was supposed to be 6 months, and then they go over to standing committees, and then there's been a lot of disruption and everything. So I'm just concerned why they're still being considered ad hocs instead of standing committees. And yeah, I mean, I agree with the combination, combining them, but they should be standing committees, not ad hocs.
And next we have is Nicole.
Yeah, so good evening. And I agree with Ms. May. As far as what I remember from going to council meetings for all these years, after I don't even think it's 6 months, or maybe it is, or I thought it was a year, but then they would have to be turned into standing committees. But I do want to say I am really, I've just been, since you all started this commission, really excited about these ad hoc committees, especially the community engagement. So I'm really just hoping, because everyone knows it's been like almost a year since this, or probably even longer, since this commission has started, and a lot of community members, including myself, really just feel like, damn, the time has just gone by and there's really nothing that has been done. And it's really, I don't know, just heartbreaking, I guess, just because of, all the nonsense and different things like that that's been, happening over the last year. But I am optimistic and super excited about some of the community outreach stuff. I think Ms. Leslie May has mentioned a lot of different things that we could do as far as community engagement. Myself, Reimagine Antioch, there's plenty of different organizations that are here in the city that can do these things. I have held many events, including with the unhoused residents, and just having them go bowling with our team, and the youth event that we have with APD and the police. So, we can do this on our own, but I just think this is the right place to have this stuff done, just because of the trust that I think the community needs to kind of have with APD because of all the stuff that went on. So I think I've sent emails out to majority of you all, and welcome, Susan. Welcome to the commission. But I've sent emails out to you all some months ago saying that, any help, we have plenty of, I'm really interested in having like some of our black community members that are, entrepreneurs, things like that, in fashion, all vendors, all types of stuff. So we have a lot of people that are willing to come out and support you all. We just, if you guys can just get on top of everything and get this stuff going, that'd be great. So thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
No more public comments.
Great.
And I just want to give a brief clarification about the ad hocs. So yes, there is a time period that the ad hocs are set up, which is decided by the commission. But that is just kind of, at the time that the time period is up, then the commission can decide whether we want to have a standing committee if they think it's something that would be worth continuing further, or the ad hoc can be dissolved. So here, if we want to get super legally technical, the right decision would be to dissolve the current ad hocs and then establish a new ad hoc, which is functionally the same as combining them, but this is just kind of like the strict legalese of it and the proper mechanism to get it done. So if there were to be a motion, I think the proper motion would be to dissolve the current ad hocs and then create the new ad hocs the way that you want to have them kind of apportioned.
Thank you. With that being said, is there a motion to dissolve the current ad hocs and then to restructure them the way it's mentioned?
Chair Taylor, I'll make a motion to dissolve the existing ad hocs and to create new ones utilizing the resolution that is in our packet this evening.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Can we have a vote, please?
Okay, the motion did not pass. It looks like we had one abstained by Treva Haddon, and so that does not pass the motion.
Do you want to further discuss the item?
Ready to make that just yet. I'm trying to go back through and read all of what they're going to be, so we can come back to it. I'm not opposed to it. I just need to gather more information to make a better informed decision.
No problem. So you want to bring this up as a future agenda item?
That's fine.
Okay. Okay. So is everyone in agreement we can bring this up as a future agenda item?
Well, there's a few ways to go about that. You can do that, or you can make a motion to table it for now, and then basically say we'll table it for now, and then we're going to hear it at the next one. That kind of ensures that it will be on the next agenda.
Is there a motion to table this item for future agenda?
I would like to make a motion to table this item for a future item.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a vote, please?
The motion to table for a future agenda passes 4-0.
Thank you. And on to item 6, public comments.
Yes, I have one speaker card from Leslie May. Okay, so actually it would be Nicole.
I don't even know what I was going to say. Yes, so like I was just telling Ms. May, I was not prepared really to speak on this, but I guess just since I'm thinking, I've been coming here for quite a while, talking about homeless encampments, talking about the criminalization of our unhoused residents that have been here, that are living on our streets. And I went to a meeting a couple weeks ago where the chief was there, city manager was there. It was a community event that our councilwoman Monica Wilson had, and I was really, really proud of you guys. I love y'all. I love Ms. Bessie. I love our chief. I really do, because I've been coming to these council meetings and these events and different things like that, and no one is really making it clear to the community the lack of resources that we have for unhoused people that are here. And I just thought that was just so important, and I shared it on social media. Yes, I recorded it and I shared it because it's so important for our community who think that unhoused people that are on our streets just don't want help. And it's really important for me, for our city manager and, people that they respect and can listen to say, look, we don't have the resources that many folks think that we have. So I think my thing with this commission, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because although we know that we don't have the resources for unhoused folks, yet we are continuously sweeping them from one street corner to the next. And I don't know where this, I don't know if this is coming from our city council, our new mayor, what's going on. We've had so many more sweeps over the last few months, and I'm just trying to figure out, where this is coming from if we don't have the help for these folks. So I would just recommend for this commission coming back. I don't know if it has to be with an ad hoc or if it can just be something on the agenda to kind of bring back and let the chief come back with something as far as our community engagement team, what their role is in the community, dealing with the unhoused community, and just making sure that whatever they're doing, it is not criminalizing homelessness and homeless people. Like I said, again, these sweeps have been happening more and more and more often. And I really, at this point, am like kind of to the point after all these years, it's like, damn, that seems to me like APD is just following direction from the top. So I'm just trying to get more information. I think this commission is the only way to try to get the information that we need to try to figure out why homelessness and having our officers deal with unhoused residents a priority in the city. So if you guys can look into that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Seeing no more public comments.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 7, ad hoc committee report out. I don't believe any of our ad hocs have met, but we can move forward. Yeah, I can report out for Lexapol, which is basically our policy ad hoc. We were on a slight break, but we will resume this week on Thursday, and we are more than 50% done with the rewrite. So that would be my ad hoc report out. Is there any public comment on that item?
No public comments.
Okay. And then upcoming and future agenda items. Any items that you all wish to raise?
One of the things that I noticed, and I think we're, from a timing standpoint, that we're supposed to be holding a public hearing on the budget. And is it, am I correct that the budget will need to be passed by the end of June?
Yes, the vote is on June 24th.
Okay. So we probably need to address that. One of the other things, and this may or may not be appropriate, like I said, I'm still feeling my way through some of this, but it would be helpful to get a better sense of where the Antonio Quinto response team fits into everything. I know one of the things that I noticed when the chair and the vice chair did their annual report to the council, technically the Antonio Quinto response team is not under the purview of the police department, it's under the purview of public safety, but yet there is some overlap. And one of the things that I would be interested in learning more about is how that team is dispatched, whether those calls come in through 911 or through the non-emergency number, or are there other other departments, other ways that those calls come in. And then also when the chief was giving his overview, one of the things that I know came up was mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other thing that I would be interested in hearing more about is where that all fits together.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's fairly broad. One of the other things that I would be interested in, I think, hearing more about, and I think it's also a good thing from the standpoint of educating the public, is talking about or helping people understand what kind of information they want to provide when they make a 911 call.
Mm-hmm.
Just for general information, I worked in the public safety arena for 14 years of my career. I did the disaster preparedness training and planning for the city of South San Francisco's fire department. And so one of the things, having been in a dispatch center, I am acutely aware of what information they're taking in, and then that is the information that they're disseminating. And so helping people have a better sense of the kind of information that is helpful for the dispatchers, and that may also help address one of the concerns that the vice chair mentioned earlier about call prioritization.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just one other thought. And then as I mentioned earlier, and City Manager Scott, maybe you and I or the city attorney can also just converse about the impact of Executive Order 14168 on our work in that DOJ agreement. Thanks.
Great. So for the portion that you just mentioned in regards to dispatch, I think that would be like a great topic for our community engagement ad hoc in regards to like forums, things that were mentioned of what we can put together to educate community. And then his name is Angelo Quinto.
Oh,
I'm so sorry. Look, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's Angelo Quinto.
My apologies. My apology.
Mm-hmm. And I noted your agenda items. Do you have any items you want to raise?
Yes. I mentioned the assistance of our agency with other law enforcement agencies, and I would like
Yes.
for us to tackle that as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mutual aid.
Yes, mutual aid. Yes. Thank you.
Commissioner Haddon? Okay, so we definitely will have the restructuring of ad hocs. Is there any way, Chief, that we can have a presentation on the structuring or the planning of how we're doing the sweeps of the unhoused community?
We can, I will take care of that.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And then currently, Susan, I am the only commissioner on the budget ad hoc. So if we get through our ad hoc discussion next week, we can definitely potentially motion to add members to that ad hoc if you're interested. And that is all for me in regards to our agenda items. All right. Is there any public comment?
Yes, we have a public comment from Nicole.
I'm sorry, y'all. I just always feel like I got to say something. And I didn't even prepare. So I didn't even write anything down. But as far as the dispatch, as far as to my knowledge, I have just been telling people on social media, like, that you're supposed to call, I don't know, Chief, if you can correct me on this, but just call dispatch. And then as far as the mental health crisis response team, just ask for, I tell people to say the purple people, but the Angelo Quinto crisis response team. So there is no other avenue other than going through dispatch. I'm not the professional, but this is just what I was told to say. Also, what else? I thought you brought up a really good point. Miss Quinto, when I went out for outreach, she made me aware of when you do call dispatch, of how important it is to use, like, not use certain words, because they won't send that response team out. They will send APD out with you. So I think that is a great idea to bring that back for a future agenda, to kind of educate the public as far as, like, what keywords maybe you shouldn't say. Because if you say, oh my God, somebody got a knife, you know what I mean? Or if it's not that serious, then our community response team can, or mental health response team can handle that, rather than having APD come out. But certain keywords, to my knowledge, from what Ms. Quinto told me, was that we'll immediately have APD come out for those type of responses. So I thought that was a great idea. Once again, I'll continue to bring up the community engagement, having fun with APD, trying to get the community together to kind of not everybody will go, not everybody will participate in community engagement. I know I reached out when I was doing the bowling events for some of our in-house, and I was like, how do y'all feel about doing some stuff with APD bowling? Some of them were like, hell no, we ain't doing it. And some of them were like, I would be open to it. So, and I think that's a lot of people, in different communities will be able to do will be open to doing something like that, or different events like that. So yes, very important, that one. And community engagement, yeah. And I think you already mentioned the unhoused and the sweep. So thank you.
Leslie May.
As Commissioner Lacey O'Hay was talking about her concerns and would like a presentation, I think that man said that they raided his home. It was the wrong house. So I would like to know a presentation from the police department, how they work with these agencies to ensure they're raiding the right house, because his house and his neighbor's house were both raided. The kids on the ground, everybody was on the ground, guns pointed at everybody, and it was like, shoot, it was the next block over. And so 2 homes next door to each other. And that was during the time when the marijuana raids with the Asians, the 3 houses they had, and they were on the wrong block. So that needs to be addressed, because, I don't know if he filed suit or what, but that's, they're crying about no money. That is a big fat lawsuit waiting to happen, when you do something like that. Besides that, people have health issues, have a stroke, heart attack, anything, just be that afraid, fearful. So I think that we need to have a presentation on that from the police department. How do they ensure, or how will they ensure, when assisting an agency, an outside agency, the right house is targeted? Thank you.
No more public comments.
Okay, thank you. So I have the continuation of the restructuring of our ad hoc committees, a presentation on our unhoused sweeps, the mutual aid policy, and the Angelo Quinto crisis response team, potentially a discussion on what community members should be stating if they are in said type of emergency to dispatch. Any other items to raise?
Did you mention the budget public
No, I
hearing?
did not. Oh, I didn't mention it because it's going to come up in our continuation of our ad hoc discussion. Okay, if there's no other items to raise. We can move on to item 9, our commissioner report out. Anything to report out, Commissioner Kennedy?
We've been talking about community engagement, and I had the opportunity to volunteer on Saturday at the Bunny Hop, which is sponsored by both the Rotary Clubs and the Kiwanis. And police department had a great presence that day. They had the motorcycles out there. They had, I think, Captain Bittner ran. The mayor, Councilwoman Wilson was walking. Councilmember Freitas was serving pancakes. They served pancakes to over 250 people and started wrapping up silverware because they ran out of the stuff that was packaged. But great day, great event, really tremendous community turnout. And I think that it's a great example of those opportunities to look at those events that exist and that you don't necessarily have to create from scratch, so that you meet people where they are. And but anyway, great turnout by the police department, and it was a good day. And I'm also just looking forward to becoming more familiar with all of the different roles and responsibilities that we have, and doing what I can to be helpful. So thank you very much.
Well, I would like to commend APD. About a month and a half ago, I think shortly after we had our meeting here, there was an incident where someone tried to break into my home while I was in my home. So I got on the phone and called APD, and they came right away. Not only did they came right away, but my son came right away. So they did talk with the individual, and I just want to say thank you. And I don't know if it's because I said who I was, Alicia Lacey Oha, but I got a fast response. So I'm bringing this up to say that I believe that it has gotten much better than what it had. The response time has gotten much better. There has been big improvement from a few years ago. And that's all I have to say. And I want to say in honor of Pope Francis, let us remember what he was all about. He was all about love, unity, and compassion.
Commissioner Haddon, do you have a report?
Nothing to report out.
I don't have anything to report out, but definitely just want to welcome Commissioner Kennedy and also congratulate you, Chief V. Hill. Much deserving, both of you, and excited about Commissioner Alakwachi joining us as well. Absolutely.
Yes, so thank you for mentioning the bunny hop. Both my 14-year-old who goes to Black Diamond, his school had enrolled him and some of the other his other classmates, and so my 21-year-old son they're very competitive, so he was like, I'm gonna run too, and they ran. And it was amazing. It was an amazing turnout. I know Monica was telling me that she was gonna be there, and I know many of our officers were there too. I think when you mention kind of reinventing the wheel though, something that you have to take into consideration is that the Bunny Hop has been there. I think this is their 9th year. And there are other organizations that have been doing this work, and they do amazing work. But I think when I mentioned community events and things like that, it was pretty much based on the fact that, our community, especially our Black and brown communities that have pretty much been traumatized by this police department and have gone through so much and have so much distrust for this police department, to bring in some of those Black and brown entrepreneurs that are out here, or to bring in, to the youth and in some of these neighborhoods and communities to where, they don't really trust our police department. And so trying to get them to come into a space, trying to get, even like I said, with the unhoused who really don't have a trust for APD, but to have someone like myself and other people that they trust in the community and have outreaches and been out there for years and have built friendships and relationships with them to say, hey, give this a try. Like, let's try to do this. And because they trust us, that I know you have an organization as well too. So, you know what I mean? You know how that can kind of be. So, having someone like you to say, be that middle person to say, hey, maybe we can give this a try. We have a new chief. He's amazing. He's doing amazing work. We have a new city manager. The city of Antioch is really just trying to be different, and I see it. So if you trust me, then just, trust that I see it. I have your best interest at heart. So I think that is where I was coming from when we talk about different communities. And so, we're reinventing the wheel. We're just trying to, reach out to different organizations and people that have been affected and have feel that they have been traumatized or affected by our police department, and trying to build that trust. That's all that it is, really. So just to kind of give you an idea of what I was talking about. Thank you.
Given the good point that Nicole just made, maybe one of the things that we want to contemplate either in one of our ad hocs or as a future discussion item is trying to identify trusted messengers so that we know we're going to some of the right places to get the message out.
Standing in agreement, I believe in innovation and making sure that everyone feels comfortable in spaces. So standing in agreement with finding community stakeholders so that we can expand on what community engagement looks like here. Any other public comment?
Name's Joe Mitchell. Just want a reminder, doesn't get publicized very well, but APD is going to do another neighborhood cleanup on the 5th on a Saturday, and it's going to be San Jose and Delta Fair. I had a chance to work the one in Sycamore Square, and it was really cool. You got to talk to a lot of folks in the neighborhood and help get rid of a bunch of junk and stuff, and it was a good event and a pretty good, actually very good participation from the volunteers in police and also the police department. So it's, they try to call people out, and I haven't seen a whole, much notice about this, so might be nice to get them out there. It's
What
a nice.
time?
Can you give us the date again?
Sure. It is April 5th, starts at 10 and runs till noon.
May 5th.
Excuse me, April 5th. Excuse me. I hope I have the right one here. No, I might be wrong on the date. This might be an old post. It is Saturday. Yeah, first Saturday of a month. It's rotating around different neighborhoods. But
May 3rd?
May 3rd.
yeah,
Okay.
it is May 3rd. I saw an old post here.
And
But I
that's
haven't
the
seen
first
much in
Saturday.
the way of notices on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, that's first third of every month. I mean, Lord knows, I knew what I wanted to say. First Saturday of every month.
Yes, and we try to coordinate with the different groups in the community, and we try to do one north side of town, one south side of town, so alternate every month.
Is this posted on the website?
It'll go on our social medias the week before.
Perfect. Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Seeing none.
Thank you. Is there any staff communications?
Nothing from the city attorney's office either.
Thank you. Our next meeting is May 5th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you, and a vote, please.
Motion to adjourn at 8:11 PM passes 4-0.